When you think of the military, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Do you think of guns, camo, uniforms, war? When you think of those things, do you picture a war movie that you've seen? Saving Private Ryan? Hacksaw Ridge, maybe? American Sniper? Chances are you pictured a bunch of men in these scenes. Am I right? According to Military Times, there is only 17% of the military that is made up of women. And I am part of that 17%. The military is my co-culture. The United States Air Force was founded 18 September 1947. It was originally part of the Army, which was formed 1 August 1907, but became big enough to become its own separate branch with the help of the passing of the National Security Act in 1947. According to the Pentagon figures, there are about 74,000 women in the Army today, 53,000 in the Navy, 62,000 in the Air Force, and 14,000 in the Marine Corps. CNN states that most of the females were represented in the medical field or administrative specialties. So my question is, why can't women be kept in the military and retained in the military year after year? The 17% of women that make up the military today has only increased by 1% since a study was done in 2004, and that's according to the Government Accountability Office report. Women are 28% more likely than men to retire early or get out before they retire. The report recommended that the services and the offices of Defense Secretary need to develop guidance and monitoring to support the recruitment retention of women in the armed forces. A study showed that the top reason why women decided to leave the service early was family planning, sexual assault, and dependent care. According to the 2011 Military Leadership Diversity Commission's report, the biggest factors with women leaving included family issues such as having to make the choice to have children and possibly experience a career setback, or working long hours and spending months away for training and deployments while trying to raise their children. The DoD has identified that female recruitment and retention is important to diversity in the military, but the services at this time do not have plans that include goals, performance measures, or timeframes to guide and monitor current or future efforts to recruit and retain military service members. In addition to not providing guidance on recruitment and retainment of women, the Government Accountability Office found that the Pentagon is also not making a priority in its forthcoming update to the Diversity and Inclusion Strategic Plan, which will take the department through to 2024. The Government Accountability Office recommended that with clearly defined goals, performance measures, and timeframes to facilitate and track recruiting and retention of women in the military. Elizabeth Van Winkle, the Pentagon's executive director of Force Resiliency, agreed with the recommendations. While neither the Department of Defense nor the military services set recruitment, accession, or retention goals based on the race or gender, DoD will continue to study the dynamics of female recruitment, accession, and retention, she stated. One thing that has changed drastically was the increased maternity leave in a recent example of which is a recent example of progress. It was increased from 6 weeks all the way to 12. So here, how do I go back? This is, well, it's hard to see, RC-130s, and that's what my unit flies. So I enlisted into the military 10 days after I graduated from high school. The date was 28 May 2014. I didn't have a solid decision on what I wanted to do for a career at that time. I knew I wanted to go to college, but wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So the military sounded like a good option, and I knew I wouldn't have had to pay school back. So I went off to basic training almost a year later. I chose to go into the administrative field. My job is called Aviation Resource Management, but it is referred to as ARMS for short. I keep track of all the training that is done in the office by the air crew, as well as create the flight authorizations that allow them to put themselves on a plane. Our job is very important and tedious, but it is rewarding. If you ever see the big C-130 planes flying around, that was with the help of our office. So that was the plane I just showed you. A little bit about my background and my family. So I met my husband when I was 12 years old. I know that sounds weird, I'll explain. We both had cancer at a young age, and we were able to attend a camp called Camp Coco on Lake Bloomington. I lived near Springfield at the time, so it didn't make sense to start a relationship, even though we always had a camp crush over the years. When I got done with tech school, I came to Peoria because they could offer me training that Springfield couldn't. And I got a hold of Corbin, and the rest is kind of history. And we got married a year ago this month, and I've been in the military our entire relationship time frame. And so far it's worked out. I've also got a son named Hudson. When I found out I was pregnant, I was set to go on my first deployment. And that actually was supposed to be the month of my due date, so obviously that wasn't going to work. So I was pulled off the deployment, and I've heard horror stories about how women were forced out of the military. And that has never happened to me. I experienced none of those things. Everyone has been very supportive. The women in my building got me baby gifts. My breastfeeding journey was very well supported, and they set me up my own room to pump when I returned from my 12 weeks of maternity leave. And we just found out we're expecting again in June, and everyone was very excited. So I'm thankful that I work with the people that I do. I'm gonna have to delete that. I'm thankful that I work with the people that I do, and just by people taking care of me, I plan to stay in until I retire. I believe that the military has a very old-fashioned mindset, and some things need to change, and voices need to be heard. I don't think that the services need to do anything drastic for retention purposes, and I believe they just need to change the mindset that women are not just a piece in the puzzle, and that they aren't just replaceable. Having a baby is a huge life-changing thing, and when a woman is made to feel guilty that she gave birth to a new life, I can see that woman having some hurt or mixed feelings in a way, and maybe trying to figure out what they would do next. A woman can have a baby and still kick butt at her job, and the military is obviously a majority of men, but those men need to step back just a little bit and think about their wives, their daughters, sisters, and mothers. And there has to be some humanity in the military and a sense of like we take care of our own, in order for women to want to stay and finish out their career. It would just give everyone peace of mind knowing that they will be taken care of and not just be replaced at the drop of a hat. So as a woman in the military, it most definitely hasn't been the easiest road. I know other women have had other experiences that differ from my own. And with the 17% of women making up the armed forces, that makes me even more proud to do what I do and to be a part of that number. My co-culture is something that a lot of people aren't a part of, but for those who are, I'm very proud to be their sister in arms.